California. As Matt alludes to, yes, realignment has certainly made for strange bedfellows when you think about Arizona State traveling to the likes of West Virginia and Ames, Iowa to play conference football games. And realignment expansion has also made for potential strange bedfellows, thinking about Stanford and other schools going all the way to the East Coast, things that we would have never dreamed would be conceivable months ago, let alone years ago, of course, that are very much in play just for the survival of these conferences. A couple things come to mind in regards to an ACC strategy. One would be that I wonder if they're able to bring some of these schools cross country, and Stanford and Cal, correct me if I'm wrong, were the two that were rumored ACC to be in discussions with the Atlantic Coast Conference. The American Conference, looking at the other two or even all four, including Wazoo and Oregon State, but focus back on the ACC. I wonder if they think that that will in some way impress Clemson and Florida State into thinking we are serious, we are in the game, we will make the necessary moves to be and maintain our power conference status. That being one thought. The second being, in place of, as a safety net, as a backup plan to losing the likes of Florida State, Miami, Clemson, or some combination thereof, to maintain Power 5 status, the ACC would go the Big 12 direction, and in lieu of no elite programs being available, safeguarding the position of the conference by just adding volume. And if you lose your 3 or 4 best football products, but you supplement with lesser football products, but still mid-level football products, then you still have a league. You're still in the running. You can still compete and have at least a championship winner at the playoff table.
Yeah, and I think what you laid out, Mark, I think the ACC is making that volume play. And when you realize, the Big 12 shielded itself from destruction and death by adding those 4 schools. Obviously, that was Bob Bowlesby, not Brett Yormark, but still, like the Big 12 was proactive in just adding schools, like just adding buffers against disaster. And that's something the Pac-12 did not do when it missed the chance to take on San Diego State and SMU. Adding schools, it doesn't guarantee your survival, but it increases the odds of it. And even if that means, more members splitting the pie more ways, it's going to create some grumbling from some parts of the conference, but just in terms of surviving, which the Pac-12 has failed to do, the Big 12, was smart in that regard and ultimately successful. And so this does seem like we can all see Florida State wants out of the ACC. Florida State hates it there. I think the ACC sees the writing on the wall. I mean, we don't know when Florida State is able to get out, or when it will ultimately get out, but it will ultimately get out at some point. I think the ACC realizes that, and if Florida State leaves, you think either Miami and or Clemson will be leaving as well. So I do think that this is a volume play by the ACC. It's to get some schools in, and let's realize this: not just Stanford, but especially Cal. Cal's going to be really grateful to the ACC, assuming that it invites the Golden Bears. Like, Cal's going to be the person stranded on an island, and the ACC will be its rescuer, its hero. So Cal's going to have the eternal debt of gratitude, and it will go to bat for the ACC, and will stand by the ACC faithfully no matter what else happens. And that will be a safeguard. And with those other premier academic institutions, North Carolina, Virginia, Duke, that will be a power center in the ACC, and it's going to make it really hard to blow up the full conference. You also think of all the other schools in the Research Triangle and in the Carolinas, Wake Forest, NC State. The ACC would have a core, if you include Stanford and Cal, and then all those Carolina schools plus Virginia. That's 7 schools. And you would think that with the others, just a few other schools in the conference remaining committed to the ACC, maybe like Boston College, maybe Syracuse, you can kind of pick and choose. Maybe not so much Louisville, because Louisville has flirted with other conferences in the past and has been kind of the nomad, much like TCU has been, much like a few other schools you could readily name. But there can be a power base in the ACC with Stanford and Cal aboard, and it would be really, really hard, if not impossible, to fully blow up the ACC. And of course, one of the things created by the recent wave of realignment, by the Big 12 going to 16 teams and the Big 10 going to 18, a lot of people think we're just going to go to a power two. It's just going to be the Big 10 and the SEC just hoovering up, vacuuming up everyone else. And so it's a real, genuine concern. If you're the ACC, let's not be sucked into, like an SEC on steroids, like a 24 or 28 team SEC. Many people in the industry think we're heading that way. So this is a way, I think, for the ACC to just make sure it survives, because it knows it's not as strong and it doesn't have the leverage of the SEC or the Big Ten. It's definitely well below those two. Better to be alive as a third conference than to do things that could lead to fracturing and splintering, which we've just seen in the Pac-12. I think that is the motivation for the ACC behind this overture towards Stanford and Cal.